Hey, I'm just so honored to be here today, and I met Rick and Tammy Tsai when our AV, the Real America's Voice team, came down, and they were over at the old original Roadhouse, and I just was taken by them. And I have seen Rick interviewed so many times already on TV, on Newsmax and Real America's Voice, and I was just moved by him and Tammy. They're such a strong couple, strong team, and their compassion just touched my heart. And I see they're on a journey, they're on a mission, and I'm so glad that we're all here to support them, because they need our support and they need our prayers. Let's not forget that. We got to pray for them, you guys, okay? And I just want to say I just wish them the best, and I feel in my gut that it's going to be just fine. So I would like to turn your attention to the flag. Old Glory there. Do you guys remember when we were little kids and we learned the Pledge of Allegiance? And I mean, I was just a little girl memorizing those words, and it's funny because I didn't really understand all those words, if I'm going to be honest. I was so young, but I memorized them, and we all put our hands over our hearts, and we said the Pledge of Allegiance, and it just made me feel good. It made me feel like an American, a proud American, and we were all one. We were all united. And at those days, I thought that indivisible was the opposite of invisible, because I didn't know what it meant. But I do know now. And I was just wondering if everybody would like to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. How about that? When was the last time we all did that? Let's all stand, everybody, please. All right, hands over your hearts, hats off. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Doesn't that make you feel good? Makes me feel real good. All right, now for the national anthem. If you don't mind, I'm going to just face the flag, because I just would like to. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets wriggling, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, send us that star-spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the home of the brave. Woo! That felt really good. Thank you so much. God bless everybody. Thank you for coming. God bless you, Tammy.
Well, that was very moving, and thank you, Laura. And I wanted to thank Marlene and Sparrow for their beautiful music tonight. It was just wonderful, and they took some requests, and they came through. Really lovely. Thank you, guys. Really lovely. Yeah, give him a round. So I haven't really thought about this today, but let me just say that the person I'm going to introduce to you is someone I've known for 38 years. We've come a long way together, and we've fought hard on every endeavor that we've ever undertaken, and he's a true fighter and a believer in doing what is right and what is just. When he was in the creeks exposing the toxic chemicals, he was not doing it for anybody but the people of this town, to just show what was happening here, and he has nothing but to gain but to correct the injustice that's being perpetrated upon these people. And I commend him for that, even though I yelled at him all the time for get out of those dang creeks. But he will come through for you, and what he promises to do, he will do with his whole heart and at 100%. I can guarantee you that. He's a man of his word, and I'm proud to call him my husband. So let me introduce to you Dr. Rick Tsai.
Thank you, Tammy. All right, I'm a veteran politician of 10 weeks now, so I'm not allowed to show emotion, but I got a tough side too, but she never fails to choke me up. So, I gotta tell you how incredibly honored I am. What am I speaking into? This or this one?
Put it on the mic stand.
Okay, where is that mic stand? Here? You clip it here? Right? Is that what we're doing?
You're doing good, Doc. Hold it.
Can you hear me? Yeah. All right. So, wow. Thank you so much. This is a packed house. And, I brought a sport jacket with me and a designer, shirt. And we were trying to raise funds here because we want to run some more radio ads. And but you know what? When the word funds has fun in it, right? So I'm here to have fun tonight and get across a good message. So I didn't change into my sport jacket because I want to relax with you all and have a good time. But those of you, I see a lot of people that I don't know here, and a lot of people do know me. So I'm going to talk about who I am and what brought me here to this point in life. I'm going to start way back to where I come from. So that starts with family. My father, he escaped China on a college visa. So back before the communists took over, China was very similar to the United States. It was a free country. So he had a free upbringing. When he came over legally on a college visa, he described it as they all could see communism coming over the hill. And what he meant by that was that you could see the towns and the counties being infiltrated with this communism philosophy. And his father was a senator. And when my father came here, Mao took over the country, and my father's entire family was imprisoned. So he would never see his father again, as he would mysteriously disappear, as so many people have in China that defied the government or were under the other government rule prior to Mao and communism. And I believe China is our number one threat to us. So my father loved the Chinese people, but he despised the Chinese government. And my wife and I got the chance to go to China years ago. And the Chinese people are hardworking, they're beautiful people. And if you think about it, people all over the world are basically the same. The people are the same. We all want the same things all over the world. We want to raise our families, have a safe environment. And it's the governments, right, that usually screw things up. So my father, he took his United States citizenship, and he told me, he would always stress to me that was the proudest moment of his life. And he talked, I got a chance to interview him a few years before he passed away on CD. I gotta move this thing. There we go. Now I can stand without bending my back over. I got a chance to interview him, and it's hard for me to listen to that CD, as his parents pass away and then you have recordings of them. But he talked about how precious freedom was here. And as a kid, cocky young kid, he passed away quite a while ago, but I wasn't involved in politics. And I didn't understand quite what he meant. But as I'm getting older and you see what is happening in our country, it really now drives home what he was talking about. So who am I? Why would you come to hear me speak? Why do I think I can make changes in not only District 6, Ohio, and the country? In my 30s, let me start way back. As a child, I want to talk about, this leads me to some of my policies later, but as a child, I was actually I think I was the fastest runner in my school, in my grade. And they recruited me as a running back, which lasted probably about 3 weeks because Spider-Man came on television after school, and I said, screw football, I'm watching cartoons. And I was an introvert. I was very shy, and I didn't gravitate towards team sports. So I got into the martial arts, and that changed my life. I was able to train hundreds and hundreds of people in Western Pennsylvania, right across the border. So you guys, I'm not speaking to a foreign, like a bigger crowd. Rochester, Pennsylvania. So everyone from just families coming in to law enforcement officials. And that taught me self-discipline and how to apply yourself when you want to get things done. In my 30s then, I was able to build one of the largest chiropractic offices of its kind in the entire nation. Doctors would come, they would fly from all over the country in this little town of Darlington, if you can believe that, to see what I had done there. We had some doctors come from Europe that would stay over and they would see what we did. My philosophy was, if you want customers or patients for a lifetime, you treat them fairly, you don't fleece them, and you charge a fair price, and people will stay with you for a lifetime if you give them good service. And I carry that philosophy on with me to this day, and I apply that to other aspects of life. In the last, we also had a little stint as competitive bodybuilders too with this is my college roommate, medical doctor, 30 years, emergency room physician. So he actually just moved back from the wild, wild west of Chicago after about 30 years there to come back to his homeland to practice in Beaver County. So anyway, what was I talking about now that I look at Brent and
Something else, I hope.
something else. So no. So the last year, I put that practice on the back burner. I'm always thinking about my business because, as you know, we are standing at ground zero of a very tragic, which may or may not. Let's just say it was an accident. I'm not happy with what happened after that accident. So for the last year, I have been documenting the lies, the corruption, the deceit from local, state, federal government, CDC, EPA. And listen, people, I've got a fair amount to lose. We have, not a week goes by. I was contacted again by somebody today. There is not a week go by that very frightened people are afraid to speak up. Because number one, the town's fractured. You'll catch flack from your neighbors, who used to be your friends, or whoever it may be. People are afraid to speak up. People are afraid of the railroad. People are afraid of the government. Who knows what it may be, but they're, you see what I call the usual suspects, the people that you see over and over again talking about how they're getting sick or how they got sick. But you don't see the dozens and dozens of people that are hiding in the shadows because they're afraid to speak up. I spoke up from the very beginning. I only say this because you want to know who you're hopefully electing for D6. I had a lot to lose. I probably could have retired 5 years ago or so. I've done quite well in life, and many of you are my patients, so thank you very much for being with me over the last 30 years in practice. I didn't know if Norfolk Southern was going to come after me. I didn't know if the government was going to come after me. I was the only doctor that I know that defied the CDC guidelines they set for East Palestine, where they actually discouraged doctors from treating patients as or documenting that these things may have come from East Palestine. When I had people with migraines, rashes, burns in their throat, burns in their nasal cavities, chronic diarrhea, migraine headaches, chronic infections in their lungs that never had that before. We had a man that breathed in vinyl chloride, was put in a coma for 5 days, and he is now on dialysis and never had those problems. These are stories that you do not hear. So imagine a government agency coming in a catastrophe like this and telling people, or doctors setting these guidelines, if they come into you talking about East Palestine, try to steer it in a different direction, basically. So I routinely tested patients and residents of this town for the chemicals associated with this catastrophe here. And in the beginning especially, there was a high ratio of people testing positive for benzene in their body and thiodihydroglycolic acid, which is a metabolite of vinyl chloride. You don't normally have that in your body, no matter what the CDC will tell you. So when they would come up with high levels, they would say, well, benzene, maybe they were pumping gas and they spilled gasoline all over them that day. Thiodihydroglycolic acid, well, that test is not real consistent. Maybe they were taking high doses of vitamin B12, and maybe they cut 10 pounds of onions for a picnic. So let me tell you about these children in Asia that went to elementary school near a petrol plant. So they were coming up with liver damage in these elementary school kids, illnesses, and they used, you know what the criteria they used to find out whether those kids were being consistently exposed to vinyl chloride was they used the thiodihydroglycolic acid test. And when they came up with higher levels than they should be in their body, then they used that criteria to move those children to a different elementary school, to a different town, and move those children out of that area next to that petrol plant. And I submit to you, if that test was good enough for kids in Asia, why isn't it good enough for the residents of East Palestine, Ohio, United States of America? It sickens me. That's one of the reasons I'm running, to fight this corruption. And this corruption that we see here is just simply a microcosm of what's going on in the nation today. You can extrapolate what has happened here to what is going in the United States of America. And don't forget, when, not if, when I get to Congress, I'm not just fighting for D6 or Ohio, I'll be voting for the nation as well. And I'm going to tell you about my policies, and I think you're going to like them. So for the last year, I have been documenting the creeks. They called me the Creek Ranger. We also have another Creek Ranger in the audience tonight. Her name is Christina. I have been taking photographs and documenting the lies from the EPA. I can't talk about it all because I could probably stand here for 24 hours and talk to you about everything that has happened. But one of the things is, if you do what is called a dip test, you take a test tube and you dip it in the top of the water in a creek, you can get water that's really good, and it shows either no or low levels of chemicals. But if you took, is that mine? No. If you take this bottle of water, and if I told you that I put chemicals in here that are heavier than this water, and they were toxic, deadly chemicals, and we put this on a table, I'm not even asking you to move that bottle and turn it upside down and put it in your mouth. If the clean water is on top and I gave you a straw, would you drink out of that bottle? You probably wouldn't. So as I would walk through the creek and the chemicals would boil up around my feet, and I would expose the lies. My tests, I took tests from Eurofin's labs, one of the most respected labs in the United States. My tests showed high levels of benzene in those creeks. So there were hundreds of thousands of gallons of chemicals spilled in this little area right here. There were 5 tankers, 35,000 gallons each of vinyl chloride. There were 2 tankers full of benzene and lube oil, 35,000 gallons each. There was a tanker of butyl acrylate. Butyl acrylate is used in paint manufacturing a lot. So I have a patient who works at Sherwin-Williams. When the butyl acrylate tanker comes into their factory, it has to back up. It has what amounts to submarine hatches on it. A vent hose comes down, and you submarine hatch that vent hose to that tanker. As the butyl acrylate comes out and goes to the storage reservoir in their factory. As the air from that tanker circulates through that tube and goes back into the tanker, if so much as one particle of that butyl acrylate comes into that factory, they are immediately evacuated, the workers. And yet, we could smell the butyl acrylate here as they took their backhoes and they released that into the air while the people were still living here. Now they said, you can stay or you can leave. Just because you smell it doesn't mean it's harmful. I am telling you, this is one of the biggest cover-ups that I've ever seen with my own eyes in my entire life. So those chemicals entered our land, entered our creeks, and subsequently they burnt them in the air. Whoever the genius was that designed this town, they did not put the homes on the banks of the creeks. They built culverts, and those culverts run under our town, in which homes are built upon and businesses are built upon. I'm not sure. I don't want to take away credit where credit may be due. I think maybe Randy and Christina may have gone in the tunnel. But initially, myself and Jake Koza were the only people that were either mad enough or dumb enough or both to go into the largest tunnel here. It's over 2 football fields long. It looks like you're walking through a tunnel like in the Alien movie. It's just pitch black. So Dr. M gave me his military mask, which I've given back, and I got my own. But we went into that tunnel. The EPA said it was safe, and you know how they knew it was safe? They refused to enter it. They sent a $70,000 Boston Dynamics robot dog into that tunnel and said it was safe. And they still refused to go into that tunnel after they told us it was safe. So we just wanted to go in and find out. Keep in mind, I've documented this all on videos. I'm walking through the tunnel. There are chemicals boiling around my feet all through that tunnel. As we would look, we saw faults and cracks in the tunnel where water would go through. There were storm drains coming down from people's homes that the water would come down, but as those chemicals off gas, they would also go up into their yards and into their homes. And the EPA to this day still refuses to test people's homes. I don't know what's going on here, but things are going to change when I get in. So when I would expose the chemicals in the creek, something funny happened. Initially, I was very positive about what was going on because I was naive, like a lot of people. The EPA came in and you'd see them on the media and they would say, everything's looking good, everything looks fine. So Tammy was very worried because we are on a well, as most of us are on the fringe of this town. We're on private wells, which means if those chemicals get down to our wells, we're screwed. So you could hear us on the media. Somebody told the town about us, I guess, and we started appearing on media. And Tammy's really worried, and I said, no, it's probably going to be good. Let's not jump to conclusions. And you could hear me saying that in initial interviews. And then I thought I would go down to the creeks myself, and that was 3 weeks out. So Randy, I'll be careful here, but I came back as I walked through that creek, the initial view of the creeks, its chemicals were everywhere. And I came back and I said, Tammy, we are effed. So, you can hear me in this video. I lost 8, I used to drive Tammy crazy. I'd walk around the house, there's mold in here somewhere. There's mold. I had the most acute sense of smell. I lost about 80% of my sense of smell due to another man-made disaster, COVID. And you can hear me in these initial videos with my nose down to the chemicals. Hey, I wonder if I can smell this. And I'm going, and so that night, I was having nightmares in bed. And the reason I was having nightmares is because when I woke up, all my joints were on fire. My stomach was grumbling, and I had a burn, a chemical burn from my nose, like a stripe. It was a chemical burn from my nose, my nasal cavity, down my throat and into my chest. But I ran out of bed, and I just had, yes, I'm glad you're done eating, because I had explosive diarrhea, which lasted for over 4 weeks. At work with patients, I would have to leave the rooms and have diarrhea. And if you read about the acrolein and butyracrolate, those chemicals, when you inhale them, they hurt your digestive tract, they hurt your mucous membranes. It's well documented. But we were told it was safe. I woke up one night after that, still foolishly going into the creeks. This was out PPE at first. And I didn't wake up. I was getting ready to go to bed. My wife was... she was in bed already. It's about 11:30. I'm taking a shower and I'm like, what is this on my back? And if you've ever been to the seashore and saw a jellyfish or felt a jellyfish, there was a welt on my back about the size of a teacup saucer. And I'm like, wow, this is too early for lymphoma or something like that. Must be a histamine reaction. That lump took about 4 days to go away. Whenever I would, then I started wearing protection and military gear, but you wouldn't not get wet. No matter what I did, I'd always get splashed upon. And I have documented rashes all over my body where the water would hit me. And this is me telling you this, and I do not fake how I feel. If I'm feeling fine, I'm going to tell you that. But the people here that have gotten sick, that live down near the tracks, and their homes are contaminated with chemicals, they have been so beaten down by other townspeople, by the EPA, by the CDC, and I had never seen such callousness in my life, or treating people so badly. As a doctor, I am taught to not discount patients when they tell you something, because oftentimes the patient is right. And so even if you think that patient has maybe what is called a malingerer, or maybe they have other psychological problems, you run those tests anyway and you make damn sure. That's not what happened here in East Palestine. Again, the CDC was encouraging doctors not to test patients, and I believe that mentality rubbed off on the townspeople. But there's something else that happened here. If the entity that caused this was told by the government, hey, look what you did, step away, and we're coming in, then I believe this town would be more united and would band together. But what happened was the government put the entity that caused this in control of the cleanup, if you want to call it that. They've never addressed the creeks. But since they put the entity that caused this mess in charge, then Norfolk Southern opened up their playbook. And that playbook says, let's offer free rides to the carnival where people don't have to pay. Let's buy them fireworks. Let's dangle some bling in front of them, offer them a $25 million park in a town of 4,000. But let's not replace their homes. Let's not help these people that want to move out of contaminated homes. And they didn't say that part. You talk about class action suits. They may take take 10 years and people might get $1,500, you know, for what's going on here. People have been knocked out of their homes. There's a woman that I saw earlier. She's in attendance tonight here somewhere. Her home was paid off. It was for her forever home. Her family got sick. She's down by the tracks. She is now living about 15 miles out of town with a $1,500 mortgage, wondering how she's going to make it. So, and her realtor said in the 30 years, in her entire year is a realtor. I take that back. I don't know if it was quite 30 years, but in her entire career as a realtor, that she has never saw a house sit for over 100 days without one single inquiry, and that is the house down by the tracks. I want to talk about my policies later about what I will do when it happens to your town, whether it's a fracking plant, a chemical plant, or train derailment. But you know, we got to the point where you start functioning in a zombie-like catatonic state. You get depressed. I show the chemicals in the creek. Probably gasoline that rolled off the road. These people come up with chemicals, benzene in their body. The one family I tested, the whole family tested positive for benzene and vinyl chloride. Ooh, these patients have been patients for years. So, he just had a double mastectomy for a rare form of male breast cancer. There's someone in attendance tonight that worked in a retail, I won't name what it was, but when the people were evacuated from this town, the police came down and evacuated the place right across the street. And she said, well, what about me? Do I get evacuated? No, you don't need evacuated. She breathed in those chemicals for weeks. Constant vomiting, migraines, burns in her lungs, and she just had a double mastectomy for breast cancer. Never had a problem before. And listen, we know those things, type of things can attack anybody, and that's just what these companies are counting on. Very hard to prove causation as the train goes by. And I love trains still to this day. There are people here that have PTSD due to the trains. I don't. I've treated hundreds of railroad workers over my career, and they still come to me to this day, which the vast majority of them are very angry about what happened here. So I have nothing against trains. What I have a problem with, and again, we're going to extrapolate this to the United States of America. There's a video that kind of went viral when Governor DeWine came here. He was dedicating the health clinic that was going to monitor the people here. And I keep saying, if you can't remove the poison, remove the damn people from the poison. Don't study us like lab rats. So he was there dedicating the health clinic that was opening. And he came here under the radar. The only way I knew was some business owner I knew from Pennsylvania told me that the governor was here because they would come into town and they didn't want residents at these press conferences. So they wanted photo ops. He's there bragging that the EPA was there and they kept saying that to us, right? The EPA was so proud that they were here 2 hours after the initial derailment. Well, I'll tell you why they need to stop bragging about that. Because per the EPA's initial report, they observed Norfolk Southern laying tracks down over contaminated liquid and soil, and they ran those damn trains over that soil for months without cleaning it up. And they pounded those chemicals into our ground and subsequently into our creeks. Isn't it unlucky that right next to the derailment is the mouth of Sulphur Run, which those chemicals spilled right into and went all through our town, under the homes, and into our soil. I was on an interview with NPR about 3-4 weeks ago. So you had Alan Shaw, you had Ann Vogel of the EPA, I believe Sherrod Brown was on there, and someone else, I can't remember. But, Andrew Welton, the scientist. which he and I agree about what happened here. The EPA doesn't agree with either one of us, but so the EPA was saying, as of about 3 to 4 weeks ago, there's absolutely no trace of any chemicals left in our creeks. That's what Ann Vogel said. She said they can find no evidence of chemicals. The day before President Biden came, I took national media into the creeks 2 miles south of the crash into the East Palestine Park where children play. I dug my shovel into the bank above where the water hits it, chop up the dirt, I throw the dirt into the creek, and chemicals come out of that dirt. We're being lied to. And I want to tell you, that is our government. I'm going to fight for the entire D6. I will fight for the nation. But what you're seeing here is going on in every town in America. Our country is literally off the rails. So, I was talking about functioning in a catatonic state. As you all know, Bill Johnson gave up his seat. Our Republican D6 representative for Congress. And to me, I didn't even care, okay? Wasn't involved in that. But I come home on a Wednesday night, busy day at work, come walking in, and by this time, just like a lot of residents here, I'd gotten tired. You just get tired. Because I'm getting at, I apologize, East Palestine, but after 30 years, we're moving in May. We're gonna do our best to move. I won't be far away, and I will fight for you, okay? But I'm not a guy that gets depressed, but you start functioning in a depressed manner. So I come walking home into the kitchen, and my wife was cooking dinner. She had just interviewed some people that got very sick from this accident, and she was very unhappy. When I put my mind to something, I'm like the Terminator. I will not stop until it's done. We were able to raise over $100,000 for this town. People of East Palestine that are in attendance, does anybody know where the money went from all the other charities? Does anybody know? I know it didn't go to residents. I'm pretty sure of that. There was also, I'll keep this clean, but one of my opponents, you may all remember the big scandal where $130,000 was raised for East Palestine, and then they got in trouble because the guy ran off with the money. That was one of my opponent's legislative advisors that worked right in with him in his office and was his good friend. That man is still, and the only reason I know about this because before one of the last debates, I attended the policeman's dinner, and the police are not happy about it. That man is still walking free. If I did that, I would be in jail for life. But we were able to raise over $100,000. Every single penny went to afflicted residents. And that's the same thing I'll do for D6. I've always said some of the charities or what was done here, you could see they bought park benches and flowers and beautified, and that's okay if you do it at the same time as you get people out or you help the sick people, but not exclusively just to make the town look pretty while there's still poison in our land and do nothing about that. You cannot pay your rent with park benches, and you cannot eat the flowers, right? That's not going to help you much. And people were displaced from their homes and out of work as well. So I come home, and Tammy turns to me, and she said, Rick, she doesn't even say hi, she said, Rick, you need to run for Bill Johnson's seat. And I swear to you, I stood there, I do carry 2 lunch pails. Yeah, I'm wasting away into nothing, and I obviously, Brent sees me after not seeing for a while. You look tired, so yeah, I'm skinny and tired, but I got fight in me. So I put my 2 lunch pails down. I look at my wife and I say, "Think for a minute. I will." Because at that moment, I've told this story. Looking back, I think if you've ever seen Shawshank Redemption. You got Andy Dufresne. He's carving his initials in his cell wall. I'll get a little emotional. And he's imprisoned, wrongly imprisoned for life. And a little chunk of failing concrete falls out of that wall. And in his face, you can see him thinking, maybe there's a way out of this. And I thought at that moment, hey, selfishly, maybe there's a way out of this for me and my family, because we're just as concerned about everybody else, about these chemicals getting into our wells. And maybe there's a way out for other residents who desperately want out. Now, I went the next day, because that was my day off on a Thursday, to the Board of Elections, got my papers, and within a few days, I had more than enough signatures. Now, I wanted to get triple that amount in case some people's addresses were wrong. But let me tell you, people were so excited. I would go, people outside of Palestine, into Columbiana, they'd say, some people wouldn't know me, and they'd say, you're an outsider? Yeah, let me sign that thing. I'm tired of this. Or, hey, you're the Creek Ranger, give me that thing. So then as soon as I got all my signatures, I was the first Republican to file. So some people here may think, well, I don't think so. You're here to support me, so you know what I am. There's a stigma that is used against us, like we're racist or we don't care about anybody, but hardcore Republicans. I didn't care. I never asked if you were Democrat or Republican when we tried to help. I didn't ask residents what sexual preference they were when they said, come look in my basement, or there's chemicals here, or whether you were Democrat or Republican, because we are all humans, and that is basically what it's about. So I decided to run, and that is why I'm here, and I think I am the best candidate by far. After all the debates, and I'm sitting right next to the two, they've said, well, you don't have any experience. I didn't have any experience in chemical disasters either. And people credit me for one of the reasons the EPA had to extend its map of contamination. And when they say I don't have experience, they didn't have any experience with COVID either, and they messed all that up. So I'm a quick learner, and I'll do what's right for Ohio and the nation. But if you had the three of us and you analyzed us, and we all were embedded Alabama tick politicians with the same voting record, we are career politicians, or if we all were just non-politicians running in this race and we had no voting record, then I ask you, how would you decide? And here's how you would decide. You would use your gut or your instinct, and you would use your gut to figure out who you think is the strongest, who you think will fight the hardest, who you think is the most genuine, and who the hell really cares about the people that they're talking to. And I am telling you, that man is me. So, pretty sure I don't have to ask you for your votes, but I want to tell you that I want you to talk to everybody in your entire circle of influence. Another reason I'm doing this, someone said something profound to me the other day. He said, evil triumphs when good men do nothing. So I went down south. I've been traveling up and down. The reason I look tired, my good friend, is because I've been sleeping 3 to 5 hours a night for the last 11 weeks. But I will tell you, I have more energy than when I was depressed about this whole thing, sleeping regular sleep hours, because I am now hooked to a cause that may just right this state, and it might right this nation. So I would just tell you that I've been going up and down this state, meeting with county commissioners. I've got big plans for Steubenville, Ohio, where they were a town of 80,000, 18,000 now. They can't fix their infrastructure because the tax base is so low. They have a whole bank nestled on the beautiful Ohio River, which they can't touch. I want to negotiate with the Army Corps of Engineers, who owns that entire stretch of land, to give up some of that land so they can start attracting, they can attract developers and attract a younger tax base to that town. I met with county commissioners in Washington County on Monday in Marietta, and something very interesting. This is just me. I think after my talk, I think every one of them wanted me to win. But something interesting happened. There was a sheriff in the back of the room. He was guarding, everybody in the room as we met. He's the oldest, what would you say, employed sheriff in the entire state of Ohio. At the end of that meeting, he walked over to me and said, "Rick, I early voted for you yesterday." So that was profound for me for a couple reasons. Where's Randy? Where's Randy? Is he here somewhere? Oh, I'm not, no, it's good that he's out of the room, actually. In that man's career, he must have been 79, 80 years old. Think about how much shit he has seen, and corruption, and lies. And I'm just telling you, somehow he saw something in me that he trusted. And the other thing was, 3 hours south, I do not have the backing and the $2 million like my opponent, or the almost $500,000 the second opponent has spent already on this campaign. This is grassroots. And I'm thinking, how would this guy even hear about me? And it was word of mouth. As Tammy and I were driving down to Washington County, 3-hour drive, you see my truck out there, anybody that came in here? So early on, people were saying, well, how are you going to do this? And I said, well, I'm going to use some of the things that I use to build one of the largest chiropractic practices in the nation. Well, what are those? Well, I'm not telling you till I win. Then I'm going to write a book about it. So people are learning about me, and they want change. So that made me feel really good. But as I'm driving down the highway, people are taking pictures, and they're fist pumping. And I know those people knew me, because it was it's an oddity to take a picture, but it's one other thing to fist pump. And the semis are honking, and I drive that truck, for example, on, what is today? Is this Saturday? Yep. So I guess it's tomorrow. I don't rest. Tomorrow I'm scheduled to spend about 6 hours in that truck driving through Boardman, Alliance, and we have a PA system that just blasts patriotic songs. So people, I'm going to win this, and we are going to win this. So here's what I'll do to end this. I think the most important thing, because you probably know my core philosophies, I'm not going to go into all my policies right now. You know who I am, you know what I'm about. Feel free to ask me anything while I'm up here when I'm done, so that other people might answer some questions for people. So I think the most important thing is, other than my policies, because I'm sure they align with most of yours, is can I trust this guy? Well, who is he? What is he made out of? And does he have the fortitude to go into Washington and not become corrupt? I do not need friends. My wife is my best friend. I have a couple friends still with me to this day, lucky to have them, that have been lifetime friends. My emotions, when I think of friends and family, I sometimes get a little emotional, but I also have strength emotions too, that if you try to mess with me or this country, those are going to come out as well. But I don't need money or friends. I've never hung around, in 30 years as a doctor, I've never hung around doctors. I think I'm a common man, and that's who I like to hang around with. We have a shooting range in the back of in the woods here. But Tammy is more into shooting than I am. I'm a fisherman. I love to bass fish. And that is what I planned on doing. I was planning on phasing out soon and just spending my days bass fishing and getting not so skinny again, losing weight, lifting weights, like my buddy says. But that's hopefully going to change. And I was thinking the other day, the Epic Times was here and they were interviewing me, and they asked me about the campaign. And I told them, you're always thinking about whether people are going to take what you say out of context. And I said, I am fighting like hell to win this every moment. And I said, but you know what? I'd actually kind of be relieved if I didn't win. And I knew, that's a dangerous thing to say. But here's why I'm saying that. If there's a war and America is in danger, you're going to go fight that war. If what you believe in is right and you're patriotic, you're going to go to war, and you're either drafted or you're going to sign yourself up. But if as you're shipping out, that war ends and you don't get sent, you're going to be a little relieved, right? So if I wouldn't win, I would go quietly into the night and I would bass fish, just as my original plan. But not if, but when I win. And I might be relieved because I know how hard I'll fight, and I know the road ahead. But when I win, I will fight so damned hard for you people. And I'll fight for the whole district, but what I won't forget about is this town. I won't just exclusively talk about East Palestine, but I will never shut up about it. So let me just end with this, as I always do. In the words of the late, great Roddy Piper, I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I am all out of bubblegum. So thank you all for having me.